Now, game week 10 has gone pretty well for me so far. I'm on 81 points and I've had another green arrow up to 364k overall. And in this video, I'm going to go through my transfer plans for game week 11 and beyond. Right, so it's only fair to start the video, isn't it, by going through what my team looks like at the moment and how it's gotten on in game week 10 so far. As I said on the intro, 81 points, 364k overall. Once again, it's another week where my defence is just the absolute king. Every single defender in my team picked up a clean sheet. Raya and Gabriel, obviously Arsenal, they're unstoppable defensively at the moment. And my mindset on Arsenal has changed somewhat as well. So we'll talk about that as we go further through the video. But yeah, Gabriel and Raya combining for 18 points. Another attacking return and clean sheet for Gabriel. Gahey, clean sheet, DEFCON, and I think he got some bonus points as well. I almost feel completely vindicated already in my decision to bring him in, because in the week that I brought him in, the player I sold, well, Tarkowski still hasn't played yet, but I got Mateta in and he scored 10 points. I think as transfers go, that's a fairly successful one. Well, at least so far anyway. We'll see how Tarkowski gets on. And then Joachim Andersen back in the Fulham lineup against Wolves. I think if we learned anything from game week 10, it's that Wolves at the moment, well, they've sacked their manager now, but they are probably the team in the league to target at the moment. He kept a clean sheet, but he didn't get any DEFCON. I guess, though, when you're playing like literally the weakest team in the league, you're not going to have a whole lot of clearances, blocks, interceptions and tackles to make, to be fair. So I'll let him off. I'll take the clean sheet points. I'm not going to complain. We've got one Everton player in my team playing Sunderland tonight. So I'm recording this on Monday morning. This video will go out Monday afternoon. So final game week score will be in my team selection video. But I've only got Iliman Njai to play. And I'm quite hopeful that he can get something in that game. I think he's one of my favourite midfielders at that price point still. We'll talk about some others, though, that I'm looking at. Bruno Fernandes with an assist. I think, well, saw the game. He was unlucky not to score as well. He hit the post from about 25 yards. Had the shot gone like 1 inch to the right, I think he would have scored. So it's just another time where Bruno Fernandes is just dodging points, even though he got an assist. So the points dodging, in my mind, cannot continue. So I'm going to stick by Bruno Fernandes. And for me, he's still my favourite Man United midfielder. Bukayo Saka, I transferred Gyökeres out for him a couple of weeks ago, and Gyökeres in that time has outscored him. That's a typical bloody FPL transfer of me, but yeah, that's quite annoying. Semenyo blanking against Man City. The only thing I'd say about Semenyo, I'm not going to sell him. He's been far too good this season for me to sell him. But the only thing I'd say about Semenyo is his downturn in attacking returns has coincided with Kruppi Jr. starting for Bournemouth. And I don't know if I'm coming up with a conspiracy here, but I just think Evan Nilsson being in the team probably plays more into Semenyo's favour than when Kruppi Jr. is playing. Another blank for Enzo Fernandez. He did keep a clean sheet, but the yellow card got him down to 2 points. I'm getting a little bit worried about him as well. I brought him in a couple of weeks ago. We'll talk about him in a second. Mateta with a goal. I mean, we'll take that. I think alongside Haaland, I bigged him up in all the videos going into game week 11, or game week 10, sorry. I bigged him up, and I think he's still the second best striker alongside Erling Haaland, who of course we captained. He got an early sub, but he still scored a brace. And, well, one more point if you don't count the captaincy than Gabriel got. So it's still the right decision, I guess, to captain him. But yeah, Gabriel getting a 12-pointer, he was obviously a decent captaincy shout as well. Nothing really too noteworthy on my bench. Yeah, we'll move on. All right, so this is just a quick sit rep on how my team looks going into game week 11. This is if I don't make any transfers. I've got 2 free transfers and 0.4 million in the bank. So just some scores on the doors in that regard. I'll talk about a range of players that I'm potentially looking to sell or buy in a second. But in terms of the starting 11, I'll be honest, I don't think this team is too bad. Well, it's not too bad. I think it's really good. I don't think I'm in any sort of desperate need to make a transfer, but there are still lots of things that I'm thinking about, which we'll talk about, and I might still make one. It's just, I think I could field this team going into game week 11 and I think I'll be all right, basically. The only decision to make on the 11 is we've got Joachim Andersen and Senesi, right? Both DEFCON beasts in their own right, and it's just a case of who do I start in game week 11. So Senesi's got Villa away, Anderson's got Everton away. Bournemouth probably the slightly better defence of the two teams, but then I'd say Everton away is a slightly better fixture than Villa away. So That's a close one, and the expected points has it pretty close as well, and it's actually going to be fairly close for the next few game weeks, to be honest. So that might be something. Maybe we end up going with a 4 at the back for a couple of game weeks, but we'll see. But yeah, that's the only real decision I've got to make there. We'll now talk about, well, some players I'm looking to sell and some players I'm looking to buy. So Arsenal are obviously sort of running away with it. Well, it feels like they're running away with it at the moment, and particularly their defence, right, is just absolutely ridiculous. I've got Raya in my team. I picked him on my wild card a few game weeks ago. I'm not unhappy with David Raya, right? I don't want to sound like I'm ungrateful for the points that he's gotten. But I just think Arsenal are in such a place in FPL at the moment, and they've got some decent fixtures coming up where I think, am I currently optimised to get the maximum number of points from Arsenal players? That's the only question that I'm asking at the moment. And I think having Gabriel as one is, I think he's the best defender in the game, and probably, to be honest, the best Arsenal asset in the game. So I'm happy with him. I'm then looking at Saka, and I think I could sell you too. We'll talk about him in a second. And then I'm also looking at David Raya, and I think, could I do better? And there's 2 ways in which I think I could do better on David Raya, right? Now, clean sheets is obviously, he's going to print points for clean sheets, but he's not really going to score points for anything else. He doesn't really make any saves, 1.6 saves per 90. And he doesn't get bonus points, doesn't get DEFCON like some of the other Arsenal defenders get. Like Calafiori looks pretty good, Timber looks pretty good, Saliba when he's back could come into my defence as well. I'm thinking about all of those things, and I'm just wondering if, keeping with David Raya, who's now 5.8 million as well, so, you know, selling him for someone cheaper could potentially save me some cash. I'm just wondering if I'm, like, optimised in terms of my Arsenal assets, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So I've got here the top goalkeepers for expected points according to Solio, and there's one name that could be quite interesting, but unfortunately I'm already tripled up on Bournemouth, so it'd be quite hard to do this, but it's Petrovic. And also, he's not on this list at all. I quite like the Sunderland keeper as well. Given where they're ranked in terms of the league, in terms of expected goals conceded, they look pretty good. I'm also looking at Rob Sanchez. About $1 million cheaper now he is than Raya. Chelsea got some good fixtures coming up, especially the next 2, Burnley and Wolves. And they look fairly solid defensively, I would say. I've only got 2 Crystal Palace players at the moment, so I could get Dean Henderson if I wanted to get some more Palace defenders in there, or some Palace defensive assets. I think he will make some saves and get some saves bonus points. Nick Pope is probably one of those keepers that will make some saves as well and get some saves bonus points. The only thing I would say about Newcastle, and I bang on about them all the time, is away from home they're just nowhere near as good as they are at home. At home at St James's Park, I'd back them to keep a clean sheet, win against anyone, which they have done. I think they've won against pretty much all the big teams in Europe at St James's Park. But away from home they're just too weak, and I can't be playing a goalkeeper every week that I don't like away from home, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's just I'm not necessarily even saying I'm shortlisting a goalkeeper to replace David Raya yet. I'm just looking at him. I didn't pay 5.8 million for him. I paid 5.6, I think. But I'm still looking at him. The amount of money he's costing me, he's not getting me any saves points. And every week, I feel like I'm losing out on points that other Arsenal assets are scoring, if that makes sense. Because ultimately, unless he gets a lucky penalty, well, you know, in terms of FPL saving a penalty, I think it's quite lucky. Unless he gets one of those, I think it's 6 points per game, isn't it? And it's just a case of, is that enough, or should I look to optimise? I know I'm in a position, it's a luxury position to be thinking about these things, but it is something that's on my mind. When I went through the team, I briefly covered a couple of midfielders that have frustrated me since I've owned them in FPL. I bought Saka in for Gyökeres, and Gyökeres in that time has outscored Saka, and Enzo Fernandez has not exactly done a whole lot in my team either. So yeah, I could potentially sell both of these players, to be honest, with how they're making me feel in my team at the moment. Now, that's obviously a bit knee-jerky, I think, to sell both of them. But I am keeping my eye open for options to replace them, that's for sure. Saka, right? It goes back to the point about David Raya, right? What currently is the best Arsenal triple-up? Because Arsenal, I think, are the leading team that I want to be buying players from in FPL. I'm already tripled up on Arsenal, but I'm asking myself the question, am I primed in terms of the Arsenal triple-up that I have? And Enzo Fernandez is filling a spot at sort of 6.5-ish million in my team. there's another Arsenal player around that price that I could potentially replace him with, and that is, I'm already tripled up on Arsenal, of course, so I have to sell Saka, but that is Declan Rice. So he's got 6 attacking returns from 10 games so far. I've got the defensive stats for Arsenal here, but it's decent, right? He's scored in game week 10. He's not going to be scoring every week, but I think the fact he takes some set pieces, he's looking more attacking now. They've got Zubamendi in their team. He's being used in a more sort of advanced midfield position. And yeah, 6.8 million with the level of returns he's putting up is pretty good. And also, it's not just attacking returns that he's getting. He's not doing too badly for DEFCON, although I'm not sure he's all that amazing. So we've got 21 defensive contribution points against Burnley, right? But other than that, he's only hit it in 2 other games. So he's hit it in Newcastle and he's hit it against Liverpool. So 3 out of 10 games so far, like a third of the time basically, he's hit DEFCON. Now, I'm not necessarily sure that's enough to convince me that he's a DEFCON beast, but we've got 3 times he's hit DEFCON and 6 attacking returns in 10 games. So he's either hit DEFCON or got an attacking return 9 times in 10 games. I suppose that's not bad. But I look at another player like Moises Caicedo, for example, who I sold Moises Caicedo to buy Enzo Fernandez, and I can't believe I did that. To be honest, it's like the meme, but I can't believe I've done this. So yeah, I'm looking at potentially selling both of these. Well, they're players that are annoying me at the moment, I would say. I'm not necessarily looking to sell them because I think it's a bit knee-jerky, but it is something I've got in my mind, you know. Is the best Arsenal triple up what I have currently? We'll just go back to my team a second. Is the best Arsenal triple up Raya, Gabriel, Saka? And should I use transfers in order to try and optimise that? Because in my mind, I think the best Arsenal triple up is probably Gabriel / Timber or Calafiori, I would say. Or maybe Saliba when he's back. And then potentially Declan Rice. Declan Rice is outperforming Saka. I mean, there's no doubt about it with the returns that he's gotten so far. Yeah, I don't know. Saka, Enzo. Am I optimised on Arsenal, and do I want to sell Enzo Fernandez? Those are the questions that I'm asking myself at the moment with my team. I don't think I need to make a transfer to my team this week. I keep saying that, but at the same time, these things are all playing on my mind at the moment. And also, just to add another little bit of fuel to the fire as well, looking at my team, and I'm thinking, am I even playing the best formation at the moment? And I know he didn't score in game week 10. Well, they got beaten by West Ham, and they've got an away game next. But I just feel like Voltemada, he's a player that I want in my team, and I'm of the mind of is a 3-5-2 the formation I currently am using? Is that the best formation? And is having 3 up front better? And the 3 up front I would obviously have would be Mateta, Haaland, and Voltemada if I'm looking at Voltemada. And is that better? Because I'm looking at Saka in my midfield, who I'm not necessarily happy with. I'm looking at Enzo in my midfield, who I'm not necessarily happy with. And I'm looking at Semenyo in my midfield, who's not... I'm happy-ish with him, but he's not performed all that amazing. And there's alternatives at the price for him as well, by the way. But we won't talk about Semenyo replacements just yet. I'm just left wondering, can I even go 3 up front? Can I sell one of my midfielders in Krupi Jr.? I mean, it's mad that I'm using all these transfers. But could I do that and then have 3 up front with Haaland, Mateta and Voltemada? It's just something that's going through my mind. Because then I could, if we just go back to my team. Sorry if I keep flicking through the slides and it's a bit annoying for you. But if I just go back to my team. If Voltemada came in for, say, Saka, that would free up a load of cash. And also would mean I have 3 up front and 4 in midfield. And then we could potentially get another Arsenal defender in there as well. So I'd have Raya, Gabriel, and another Arsenal defender, which could arguably be a better triple up than what I have currently. Just another transfer plan or thoughts that I have going in my head at the moment. Yeah, I think that could be one as well. Not going to do it this week, but that's something else I'm thinking about. Like if I were to pick a wild card at the moment in FPL, I think I may consider it like a 3-4-3 or a 4-3-3, and it would be Voltemada, Haaland, Mateta up front, a back line of 3 Arsenal defenders maybe, or Declan Rice. I'm still not necessarily massive on Declan Rice with those DEFCON points, but that's just things that are going through my head at the moment. So Voltemada is another option that I don't have currently that I'm considering. Right, I'm going to hide for cover in a second because I'm no doubt going to get a little bit of stick for suggesting this. But once we get Game Week 11 out of the way, the Liverpool fixtures are they're absolutely crazy good. They got Nottingham Forest, West Ham, Sunderland, Leeds, Brighton, Tottenham, Wolves and Leeds again until New Year's Day. The run of fixtures is crazy, and I know they've been disappointing this season so far. They won in Game Week 10 and I back them. I do back them to turn it around. I think Arne Slot's a good coach and they got some good players, and I think it will take this fixture run for them to get the results behind them, learn ways to play, etc. They can afford to experiment against some of these teams, and I think this will probably see them regain a little bit of form. I don't think they're going to be title. Well, they're obviously out of the race already for the title, but yeah, that's just something that's in my mind at the moment, right? And I can't ignore the fixtures. Right, we know what Liverpool did last season, and yeah, I just can't ignore those fixtures. I'm just thinking in my mind, which Liverpool players would I consider for my team? Well, there's defenders in Van Dijk and Konate. Those two I would probably consider. Left and right back is too uncertain, I think. Obviously, Bradley's playing at right back at the moment, but Frimpong's an option there. They've got Kirkes and Robertson. I don't think you can pick those. The midfielders, they don't necessarily pull up enough trees for me to pick them. I think Szoboszlai might be the front runner. Obviously, there's Salah as well, but I more consider him an attacker. I'm just thinking of how they actually line up. Szoboszlai is probably the one there. Not too bad for Defcon. Gravenberch, to be fair, has been scoring decent points as well. But I don't know. I feel like I could do better than Gravenberch. Then looking at the attackers, well, there's 4 that I think are pickable in FPL. Obviously, Salah, Gakpo, Ekitike, and Isak. Ekitike, by the way, he has been outplaying Isak so far at Liverpool by far, and I think Liverpool, they may be in a position at the moment where they're almost regretting buying Isak, providing competition for Ekitike. I'm not sure the transfers, and obviously Isak's injured at the moment as well. He is just very injury prone, is Isak. So yeah, that's just something that's going through my head. So potential Liverpool options that I'd consider: Konate, Van Dijk, both seemingly decent for Defcon, and I think they'll keep some clean sheets in those games. Salah, Szoboszlai, Gakpo, that's probably it, those 4. That's probably the ones I would look at. And I'm not saying I'd do it this week, but it's something I've got my eye on, and it actually links to, well, it links to something else as well. So we're talking about Game Week 11 at the moment, but I think we all need to be preparing for Game Week 12 after the international break as well. And I think in upcoming game weeks, Game Week 12 is one of the very, very few times where Erling Haaland might not be the best captain at the moment. So he plays Newcastle away at St James's Park, right? And I've said I don't want Nick Pope because they're not very good away from home. But at home, honestly, Newcastle just feel like they're a different level at home. And I do think it is a potential week where you could go different from Haaland on the captaincy. And then you're asking yourself, okay, if I don't captain Erling Haaland, who is the next best captain? And we'll run through the fixtures currently. You got Chelsea away at Burnley. Now, if Cole Palmer is back fit and ready to go, he could be an interesting option. And I wouldn't completely rule myself out of doing Saka to Cole Palmer in Game Week 12 and captaining him against Burnley. If he's had the international break to recover and he's fit, that's just something that's playing in my mind. That would be quite fun. It will be his first game back from injury, though, so I don't want to get too carried away. Bournemouth at home to West Ham. They've obviously just beaten Newcastle at home, but at the same time, I think Semenyo could be a good shout. Looking down, we've got Liverpool at home to Forest. I think on paper that week, I'd probably say Salah is the best captain, but at the same time, I'd have to completely rip up my team to bring him in. So I think I kind of have to rule him out. You got Mateta away at Wolves. I could captain him. Obviously, you could just still captain Haaland at Newcastle and trust in him. The guy is basically a robot, so there's no shame in... well, there's nothing wrong with doing that. I think I may end up doing that myself, but I'm just being aware that he might not be the best captain that week. And that's probably it. I mean, a Villa away at Leeds, but you're not captaining a Villa player. I don't think you're going to captain an Arsenal player against Spurs, and I don't think you're going to captain Bruno Fernandes or Mbeumo against Everton. But yeah, just want to be prepared, I think, and ready for Game Week 12 and make sure that I'm content with who I'm going to captain. And we'll round off the list with just some Solio analytics. So we'll look at the next 5 game weeks, but also Game Week 12 in particular. And it does suggest that Salah is the best captain in Game Week 12. And I'm just thinking aloud, right? Is it crazy to use your free hit in game week 12 to optimize your team for that game week? And then just, you know, we're halfway, basically the halfway point at which we can use all of our chips. For me, no absolute clear opportunity has come about where I want to use my free hit yet. I'm looking at these fixtures for 12. You could target Chelsea, who have got Burnley away. You could probably target, you could get some Liverpool assets who have got Nottingham Forest. Obviously load up on Crystal Palace. You could probably ignore Erling Haaland and Newcastle for that 1 week, or just own Haaland to get the, you know, to cover yourself. Yeah, maybe. You could have 6 players from Liverpool and Chelsea, couldn't you? Something like, I don't know. Just something that's going through my head to be prepared. But when you look at the predicted points on, you can see that game week 12, Salah is by far and away the leading player here. In second place, it looks like it's Saka, actually, which is interesting, against Tottenham. And then Bruno Fernandes is there as well. But Haaland is nowhere near. And I'm not necessarily sure I totally agree with that. But it's just something in my head, yeah. Am I optimised for my captain in game week 12? And I wanted to pass that on to you as well. All right, well, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed that and found it useful. It felt a little bit rambly, but I think the focus was in and out a little bit on my camera as well. I can only apologise for that. It just does it automatically. But it was very rambly, but this is the whole idea of these transfer plans video. It's sort of my raw, open thoughts about my team. And obviously, there's Champions League football this week as well. I didn't even mention that when I talked about the players. So all of these decisions, etc., probably not going to be locked in any way, shape or form until the Champions League is over, because half of my team could get injured. Well, and European competition as well. Half of my team could get injured before we even start. So that's just something I've got in my mind. But if you enjoyed the video and found it useful, please leave me a like rating. Let me know in the comments if you think I should make any changes to my team this week, or if there's anything I should do to my team that I'm not necessarily talking about at the moment. Yeah, I'm always open to new ideas. And yeah, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Golden Goal channel. It should be just there on your screen. And yeah, it just leaves me to say thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.